In Chinese folklore, mountains are the backbones of sleeping dragons. But millions of years ago, the dragons were real. Central Asia spawned the most terrifying dinosaurs ever to rule the Earth. Asia, 160 million years ago. The climate is hot and unstable. Clouds are twice as high, storms twice as powerful. Below, a primordial forest teems with the earliest forms of life. All around, exotic creatures vie for space and food. Meanwhile, to the south, dark clouds gather on the horizon. Some creatures sense danger and begin to move away. But close to the forest, an enormous plant eater stops by a stream. Nearby, a killer stalks its prey. It lunges like lightning. Before the attack is over, a violent storm erupts, unleashing a torrent of water. Attempts at escape are futile. Overwhelmed by the raging flood, the dinosaurs are swept away. Over time, their mangled bodies will be buried in silt and preserved for the next 160 million years. Today, their grave lies in China, the land of the dragon. 1,000 miles southwest of Beijing, nestled in the lush hills of Sichuan province, lies the city of Zigong. Here, in 1979, the first museum in Asia was built to showcase dinosaurs. Since then, it's become a popular tourist attraction for the Chinese. The museum sits directly above the site where the dinosaurs died. Below a spectacular viewing gallery lie the remains of over 100 dinosaurs, frozen in time. Paleontologist Dale Russell of North Carolina State University is one of the few Westerners to witness the carnage.
I'm walking into a colossal site of dinosaur bones. This is one of the greatest accumulation of dinosaur bones that humankind has ever found. And they're all preserved here, more or less intact, as their bones were scattered across the surface of sand.
There are over 8,000 bones here. In all, 6 entirely new species, unique to China, were entombed in this dinosaur graveyard.
It's easy to visualize if you want to try. We're surrounded by a tremendous amount of putrefying flesh, which is only partly exposed from the sand. The odor is something that is beyond description and beyond endurance. What this place is, it's a fourth dimensional hell.
This is the pelvis of a predator. Close by is the thigh bone of its prey. It belonged to one of the long-necked, long-tailed plant eaters that roamed the Earth 160 million years ago. Called sauropods, these giants had legs the width of tree trunks and brains the size of golf balls. The largest land animals that ever lived, they were also one of the most successful. The biggest sauropod found in Zigong was the length of a basketball court and weighed as much as 7 elephants. It's named Omisaurus, the lofty brow lizard, because of its neck. At 30 feet, it's the longest one ever found on a sauropod of its time. In the past, paleontologists assumed its neck was held upright, like a giraffe. Now it's known that would be a physical impossibility.
The neck itself was built not so much to go up, as it's shown here, but more to reach out in front and sideways.
The neck was reinforced by long, slender bones on each side. If Omisaurus tried to lift its head up, these bones would snap. Instead, it was kept low to the ground.
We assume that this long neck behaved much as a large boom on a crane would function, so that the animal could graze a wide swath as its body would move quite slowly and become a very efficient large-scale lawnmower.
Moving slowly, constantly feeding, Omisaurus behaved like other sauropods. But the sauropods here are the earliest yet discovered. They represent the best remains in the world from the mid-Jurassic. The Jurassic was the second of 3 geological time periods known as the Age of Dinosaurs. It began with the Triassic, 245 million years ago. The Jurassic was followed by the Cretaceous, which saw the end of the dinosaur era 65 million years ago. China's mid-Jurassic sauropods were not only ancient, they were unique. Omisaurus had a feature Dale Russell almost overlooked.
You know, when I first saw this dinosaur, I thought, what a fine but ordinary specimen of sauropod. And then I began to look at it in detail.
Omisaurus had a club at the end of its tail, the size of a football, that may have been a lethal weapon.
Well, as you can see, this medieval mace is not unlike an Omisaurus tail club. And if I were a desperate Omisaurus being attacked by a carnivorous dinosaur, I guess I would use it something like this.
Even the largest predator was no match for this giant swinging his fearsome club. The sauropods of China were different because the world they lived in was different. 245 million years ago, China didn't exist. It was part of one huge continent called Pangaea that the dinosaurs could roam freely. Through time, Pangaea broke up and Central Asia drifted apart. Cut loose from the rest of the world, the creatures that lived here evolved in their own special way. For 70 million years, the dinosaurs of Central Asia lived in splendid isolation. But it wasn't to last. As the Jurassic gave way to the Cretaceous, the Earth began to change. The climate warmed and sea levels rose, creating a kind of greenhouse that would feed evolution. The first flowering plants blossomed. And in Asia, a strange new creature appeared. About the size of a pig, it scurried through the underbrush on its way to becoming one of the world's best-known dinosaurs. In 1922, a pioneering expedition to Mongolia, funded by the American Museum of Natural History, was led by the original Indiana Jones, Roy Chapman Andrews. Traveling with a caravan of camels and automobiles, Andrews was searching for evidence of primitive man. But he found something much older.
Roy Chapman Andrews went to Asia to find the source of human origins. Instead, what he found was the best fossil field of dinosaurs that we will ever know.
In Andrew's day, the dinosaurs of North America were already famous. With its massive frill and 3 large horns, Triceratops was the star of the late Cretaceous. But its ancestors were a mystery. No one knew where it came from. Then, at the site called the Flaming Cliffs, Roy Chapman Andrews stumbled on a clue. The skull of a horned dinosaur that looks like a Triceratops, but more primitive. Named Protoceratops, it was the perfect candidate for an ancestor, except for one problem. It lived at the same time as Triceratops, only many thousands of miles away in Inner Mongolia. For 4,000 miles, an ancient trade route winds its way across the steppes. Called the Silk Road, it's linked China to the west since Roman times. More recently, it's been a hunting ground for paleontologists. In 1993, a Sino-Japanese expedition followed a small part of the Silk Road on a hunt for fossils. They found 4 meat-eaters and 7 plant-eaters, a whole community of dinosaurs. But the prize of the trip was a brand new dinosaur that would solve the mystery surrounding Triceratops. Dong Jiming, China's leading paleontologist, made the discovery, and what he'd found was truly remarkable. An almost entire skeleton intact, with a perfect skull. In life, it was a plant-eater that ran on its hind legs and had a peculiar head. Dong named it Archaeoceratops, meaning ancient horned face. 4 feet long, it was the size and build of a small deer. For Dong Jiming, it was part of a bigger story. Archaeoceratops had the makings of a frill and a hook-shaped snout, just like Protoceratops, but it was smaller and more primitive. And crucially, it was found in much older rocks.
When I found Archaeoceratops, I was very excited because this proved that the ancestors of these ceratops were in Asia in the early Cretaceous period.
Archaeoceratops was 30 million years older than Triceratops, just the right age to be its ancestor. But if they are related, how did a Mongolian dinosaur wind up in Montana? $120 million years ago, titanic convulsions deep within the Earth erupt in a curtain of fire, tearing continents apart. The Pacific Ocean gradually shrinks, drawing Asia and North America closer together. In time, they collide above the Arctic Circle, forming a land bridge called the Bering Straits, a link that still exists to this day. In the Cretaceous, it was a dinosaur footbridge.
We had this migration route, as it was, clearly outlined through the Bering region that really underscores the greatest migration route of the dinosaur era, in which these dinosaurs very occasionally went up almost to the pole and found themselves isolated on the other side, evolving into new species.
If Archaeoceratops hadn't made the long journey to North America, there would be no Triceratops. But it wasn't the only dinosaur on the move. Central Asia would also spawn the most terrifying dinosaur ever known. 100 million years ago, somewhere in Mongolia, hundreds of plant eaters are migrating north. A predator tracks their every move. Following the herd from a distance, it waits patiently for a straggler. Then, suddenly, a misstep. Now its great size is its downfall. Trapped in a bog, it will perish under its own weight. In time, its bones gradually turn to stone, then vanish beneath what will one day be the Gobi Desert. Today, the Gobi is a trackless wasteland of sand and scrub that stretches 500,000 square miles across southern Mongolia and parts of northern China. Here, rain only falls every 2 or 3 years. In summer, the temperature can soar to 110 degrees. In winter, it drops to 50 below. Only the nomads who migrate with the seasons venture into this inhospitable land. Westerners are rare, just a few intrepid explorers and dinosaur hunters intent on unraveling the secrets of the past. In 1999, Dr. Phil Currie of the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Canada came here to solve a mystery.
The road is much better here.
You want to call it a road?
The riverbed.
Currie is on the trail of a tyrannosaur that may be an Asian export.
This is the Nemeg Valley, and it's one of the best places in the world for dinosaur collecting, and certainly one of the best places anywhere for collecting tyrannosaurs. Since I like working on tyrannosaurs, I've looked forward to coming here for a long time.
For 10 days, Currie and his team scour the desert for dinosaur bones, without success. After a long day hunting, they find an old quarry previously explored by Russian and Polish dinosaur hunters in the 1970s. Deep in the quarry, they hit pay dirt, a rock loaded with teeth.
We have just discovered the third known skull and skeleton of a juvenile Tarbosaurus.
The juvenile was about a year old, 15 feet long, and had already weighed a ton. Fully grown, Tarbosaurus was the height of a 2-story building. Tarbosaurus means alarming lizard. With its massive head and powerful hind legs, it was the most awesome predator of its day. When Tarbosaurus stood upright, a man would come up to its knee. A mass of muscle and bone the length of a school bus, it had ferocious teeth set in an industrial-sized skull.
If we look at the teeth, we can see one of the many adaptations these animals had that made them so sophisticated. The teeth are much wider than normal theropod teeth, and that means they were capable of biting right through bone. That's one of the reasons this was the king of its land.
Tarbosaurus also bore an uncanny resemblance to the dinosaur king of North America. Tarbosaurus is bulkier and has a few more teeth, but in all other respects, it's an Asian T-Rex. Because T-Rex, the tyrant of the Cretaceous, is only found in North America, scientists long assumed it evolved from another dinosaur in North America, the tyrant of the Jurassic, Allosaurus. It had the same sharp teeth, large claws, and small forelimbs, but it was smaller and less massive. It looked like a scaled-down tyrannosaur. But Tarbosaurus was a much closer fit. Bone for bone, it was identical and clearly related.
I think that it's a surprise to some that the closest relative of Tyrannosaurus is in Asia, Tarbosaurus, but indeed it's a very close relative. They're so similar at 20 or 30 feet, they almost look the same.
Tarbosaurus was another Asian dinosaur that made the long journey across the land bridge to North America. So if T-Rex came from Tarbosaurus, where did Tarbosaurus come from? What dinosaur in Central Asia gave rise to this terrible predator? The answer lies in the sands of the Gobi Desert. As Phil Currie and his team prepare to go deeper into the past of the world's most ferocious dinosaurs, they can be grateful that a certain wily predator that once lurked in the darkness of the desert has been dead for 85 million years. A new day dawns in the Gobi Desert, and the dinosaur hunters are back at work. They are now 2 weeks into the expedition, but for paleontologist Phil Currie, the adventure is just beginning. The discovery of Tarbosaurus not only cast doubts on the ancestry of T-Rex, but it held a tantalizing clue to the origins of the Tyrannosaurus. It was a stroke of luck the fossil belonged to a youngster. When Currie examined the skull up close, it gave him an idea.
What's interesting about these skulls is that when you look at the snout, it's very long and low in comparison to what the adults look like. This fact, and several other aspects of the skeleton, led me to a remarkable new way of looking at tyrannosaurs.
In the primeval forest of the Cretaceous, the young Tarbosaurus bears little resemblance to its parent. It's small and lean, quicker than the adult. In shape and form, the carbon copy of a totally different species. On a hunch, Currie and his team took a closer look at the bones of the adult Tarbosaurus.
When you look at the bones from the flat of the foot, one of them is pinched out towards the top. This is a new type of adaptation or mechanism that allowed these animals to run much faster.
Only one other group of dinosaurs has a foot like that. The raptors. Could this small predator sire a monster 20 times its size?
We now recognize that tyrannosaurs are derivatives from the very specialized bird-like meat-eating dinosaurs that we call raptors, the small forms, and that they aren't related to the large meat-eaters that lived earlier in the history of dinosaurs.
The raptors were small, lightweight predators and the most successful family of dinosaurs that ever lived. They had some impressive hardware: sharp serrated teeth, hand claws like knives, and a retractable sickle claw on each foot to rip open their prey. The most famous raptor lived in the Gobi Desert. Phil Curry is in velociraptor territory.
This is exactly the kind of area I would expect to find a velociraptor, and that's what I really hope we can find today.
Velociraptor had a large brain and used it to outsmart its prey. It was also unusually fast and could turn on a dime by using its tail for balance. It could easily outpace a human and run down any prey. Velociraptor means speedy thief. 6 feet long head to tail, it was about the size of a wolf. But what it lacked in stature, it made up for in agility, speed, and cunning. Because of its size, Velociraptor probably hunted in packs, exploiting the tactics of ambush and surprise to bring down even the largest prey. No human has ever seen a velociraptor, but Phil Curry can imagine what an encounter might have been like.
Velociraptor was well adapted as a predator. It had a long, low skull with very large teeth, large eyes for good vision, and the large brain allowed it to behave in complex ways. This large brain is probably what allowed it to hunt in packs. When they attacked you, the thing that would do most of the dirty work would be the claws. Now, these large claws are even bigger than the teeth and would have been extended to a razor-sharp point. Imagine, if you can, being attacked by a pack of 6 to 12 of these wolf-sized animals. It's quite terrifying. Finally, the animal had relatively strong legs, and this would allow it to leap and jump easily. Overall, I think I would rather be attacked by an animal like a Tyrannosaurus than a group of these vicious, nasty little animals.
The raptors were superbly equipped for survival. But if a pack of velociraptors isn't bad enough, 80 million years ago, another killer was stalking the desert. Temperatures are high, and sand stretches for endless miles. A raptor stalks the dunes. Nearby, a dinosaur has laid its eggs in a hollow, protected from the winds of an advancing storm. As the first of her young are ready to hatch, the raptor moves closer. Suddenly, a violent storm hits the scene, burying the hatchlings and the raptor under suffocating sand. Today, the site is a towering wall of red sandstone. A year after his historic expedition, Roy Chapman Andrews returns to the site he called the Flaming Cliffs. Here he made his most celebrated discovery. The first complete nest of dinosaur eggs. Before then, no one even knew dinosaurs laid eggs. In all, 25 eggs were collected, along with 70 skulls of Protoceratops, leading the team to believe the horned dinosaur was the mother. Nearby, they also uncovered the skeleton of a new dinosaur on top of a clutch of eggs. Assuming it lived by preying on the nests of Protoceratops, the team named it Oviraptor, which means the egg thief. Oviraptor was an odd predator, some 6 feet long with a light skull, large eyes, and no teeth. Instead, its jaw ended in a powerful beak, sheathed in horn.
Oviraptor is one of the weirdest looking dinosaurs. It's got a head that looks more like a bird head with a massive beak. It has very long arms with extremely long claws, and long legs also with very long claws.
Armed with weapons ideal for attacking small prey and breaking eggs, Oviraptor was cast as the villain of the Cretaceous. In the years since Roy Chapman Andrews explored the Gobi, the Cold War closed the desert to Western scientists. Then, in 1993, Mongolia invited the American Museum of Natural History back. Dinosaur hunters Michael Novacek and Mark Norell are among the first Westerners to revisit the site of the Andrews expedition. Today, eggs are still common, but no one has seen inside them. Now, Mark Norell is about to make the coolest discovery of his career: the first ever embryo of a meat-eating dinosaur. Overnight, these tiny bones would transform the image of egg-stealing Oviraptor.
On the inside of it, instead of finding a Protoceratops, which everyone had always imagined would have been found on the inside of that, there was a baby Oviraptor. So clearly, is that the Oviraptor, when it died in the 1920s at the Flaming Cliff, it wasn't actually predating on that nest. In all likelihood, it was the parent of that nest.
A 75-year-old mistake had been corrected. Oviraptor wasn't a thief, it was a caring parent. The team went on to excavate a whole nest of eggs with the skeleton of an Oviraptor on top of it. The find spoke volumes about dinosaur behavior.
These oviraptors that are roosting on the nests have their legs bent forward and flexed, very much like an ostrich sits on the eggs. The arms are round. It's almost as if the animal's incubating these eggs in a squatting position. Remarkably bird-like behavior.
Oviraptor's behavior was a stunning revelation, but it was only the first of a string of big surprises that would end a century-old debate. $130 million years ago, in China, a primitive lake buzzes with life. The shrieks of ancient creatures fill the air. As the dinosaurs come to drink, a rumble is heard in the distance. A mighty volcano explodes, sending a column of poisonous gas and dust thousands of feet into the air. 1 million tons of ash fall from the sky, suffocating every living thing for miles around. Today, the site of this prehistoric disaster lies near the city of Beipiao in the province of Liaoning. Once the heart of the Manchurian dynasty, Beipiao was the home of the most powerful emperor of all China. Now its glory has faded. The city makes its living from mining and agriculture. Early one morning in 1996, local farmers set off for work. One of them, Li Yin Fang, took a detour to explore a hillside formed from the volcanic ash that destroyed the ancient lake. There he uncovered an unusual slab of rock. Li realized he had something special and took it home for a closer look. A good fossil can fetch a month's salary. What Li Yinfang had found would turn out to be the most valuable fossil ever discovered in China. At the National Geological Museum in Beijing, he showed it to paleontologist Ji Chang. In the box was a fossilized dinosaur unlike anything he'd ever seen.
When the farmer gave me this fossil, my first impression was that the preservation was absolutely amazing. Out of 10,000 fossils, it is #1.
Not only every bone had been preserved, clearly visible are its ribs, its eyes, and even its internal organs. Here was a predatory dinosaur distantly related to the raptors. Ji Chang named it Sinosauropteryx, meaning Chinese dragon wing. A two-legged carnivore, 3 feet in length with long legs and sharp teeth. It had the speed and smarts to catch fast-moving prey, but it also had something never seen before on a dinosaur.
Immediately, I could see there was a short layer of something on the surface of the skin. This left a deep impression on me. I thought there were 2 possibilities as to what this layer was. One was that it was hair, and the other was that it was some kind of feather-related structure.
Thin filaments ranging from 1/4 to 2 inches long covered parts of its body. Were they feathers? Overnight, Sinosauropteryx became the focus of a debate that's been raging for over 100 years. Did dinosaurs cheat extinction to live on as birds? The controversy began in 1861 with the discovery of a unique fossil that had preserved feathers. Because only birds have feathers, it was christened Archaeopteryx, which means ancient wing. Archaeopteryx was the first bird, but its skeleton was just like a dinosaur's. So, did it evolve from a dinosaur? To prove it, there had to be a missing link, a dinosaur with feathers. Sinosauropteryx appeared to be the missing link, but the evidence was inconclusive. Microscopic photos showed the filaments were tangled and matted, making it difficult to isolate individual strands. Critics said the feathers could be shredded muscle tissue. Others claimed mistakes were made during the preparation of the fossil. So the debate went unresolved. Today, a fort protects the site where Sinosauropteryx was found. One of the most fossil-rich regions in the world, it's been dubbed Paleo-Pompeii after the ancient Roman city buried under tons of volcanic ash. Now the Geological Museum controls the area and pays farmers to harvest fossils in the hope of making another discovery. In 1998, a farmer pulled another slab of rock out of the hillside, and on it he found a dinosaur. Paleontologist Ji Chang hurried to the site.
After we found Sinosauropteryx in 1996, we thought we had found the first feathered dinosaur, but we didn't think it would completely resolve the issue of the origin of birds. But another feathered dinosaur was discovered here in 1998. It was an entirely new creature.
This dinosaur was related to the raptors. It had long legs for speed and sharp claws for grasping prey. But instead of a jaw full of teeth, it had a beak. Instead of scales, it was covered with feathers. Its name is Caudipteryx, meaning tail feather. This time, the feathers are unmistakable. Preserved in a death pose, the dinosaur is clearly visible in the rock. Its feathers are 8 inches long on its tail and 4 inches long on its arms. Phil Currie was one of the first to see the specimen.
Caudipteryx has feathers that we can compare feature for feature with the feathers in modern birds. There's no question we have a dinosaur here with bird-like feathers.
Caudipteryx made headlines and turned a generation of skeptics into believers.
Caudipteryx, to a lot of people, was the final proof that birds came from dinosaurs.
It has now become the orthodox view that over millions of years, the raptor dinosaurs became smaller, lighter, and faster. They evolved feathers, and eventually, they took to the air. But just as one mystery is laid to rest, another comes along. Central Asia has even greater and weirder puzzles in store. "70 million years ago, the dinosaurs were the biggest, smartest, and meanest creatures on Earth. But in Asia, there's one that could also be the weirdest. The creature is stalking its prey. Or is it? There's something strange about it, like no other creature before. For a fleeting moment in time, evolution went haywire. China and Mongolia have solved many dinosaur mysteries, but one would remain a baffling enigma. In 1954, a Soviet Mongolian expedition to the Gobi Desert discovered a 28-inch claw. Scientists thought it might belong to a gigantic turtle. 25 years later, unknown skulls were dug up, along with odd-looking foot bones. The finds were isolated, and no one knew what they were, so they were filed away and ignored. Then, in 1993, a Chinese team ventured into the heart of the Alishan Desert in Inner Mongolia. They set up camp and lived like nomads, sleeping in tents called gurs, made from felt. Days before they were due to leave, they found the claw of a meat eater. Close by, they uncovered the foot bone of a plant eater. Clearly it was a dinosaur, but from what they could see, the bones just didn't fit together. The fossils were dug out of the ground and taken to a warehouse south of Beijing for safekeeping. Now dinosaur hunters Dong Jiming and Dale Russell are on their way to examine the skeleton they discovered 6 years ago. If finding a dinosaur in the rocks of northern China is tough, finding one in storage may prove even trickier. As the search drags on, the mystery and confusion surrounding the strange new dinosaur continues to mount.
It's kind of popular knowledge in a way that a paleontologist is supposed to be able to identify and predict the shape of an animal from a single bone. And living within that tradition, I was becoming rapidly extremely uncomfortable because every prediction I made of what this animal looked like was negated by the next bone that I picked up.
When the bones are finally rescued from storage, Dale Russell carefully reassembles them like a jigsaw puzzle.
This jaw contains teeth that look like the teeth of a nest-robbing dinosaur.
The jaw is similar to those found on dinosaurs that prey on nests of eggs.
This claw looks like it comes from the hand of a large meat-eating dinosaur.
A claw like that belongs on a ferocious carnivore.
And this foot bone looks like it comes from the foot of a medium-sized plant-eating dinosaur.
The foot belongs to a primitive sauropod. What Dale had were the bones of 3 different dinosaurs, all rolled into one.
And when you put them all together, they belong to a very strange-looking animal that's called Allosaurus.
Named after the desert where it was found, Allosaurus was the height of a man, with massive hips and a belly like a sumo wrestler. Its long, powerful neck supported a small head with the teeth of a plant eater and a beak. Its long arms ended in long, powerful claws that may have been used to strip vegetation from the trees. This bizarre and perplexing creature, and all those mysterious bones found over the last 50 years, belonged to a family of dinosaurs called the Therizinosaurs.
When they were first discovered, people suggested that Therizinosaurs might have been the dinosaurs designed by committee, because they have bits and pieces, or so it seems, of different sorts of dinosaurs.
Allosaurus was so complete, Dale Russell was able to show that Therizinosaurs were related to the raptors, just like the tyrannosaurs.
Therizinosaurs are descendants of raptorial dinosaurs, just the way tyrannosaurs are. They just went in a very different direction. Whereas tyrannosaurs became fast-running hunters, Therizinosaurs became very slow-moving plant eaters. So they're sort of a paradox. They're plant-eating, meat-eating dinosaurs.
But the story doesn't end there. It was about to take a new twist. In 1999, another Therizinosaur was discovered in China, and it had feathers. Since Therizinosaurs are related to raptors, and raptors are related to tyrannosaurs, some scientists believe feathered dinosaurs were much more common than we thought. If so, the mighty T-Rex may have been a fluffy chick. In Asia, each new dinosaur discovery is a revelation that continues to amaze.
Nowhere else can we match the excitement of new dinosaur finds that have emerged from China and Mongolia.
You walk into Central Asia, there are all of these intriguing things, and no matter where you go, no matter what you excavate, there's something new.
In the land where dinosaurs had feathers, carnivores ate plants, and America's favorite monster was an Asian export, truth is stranger than fiction. But these creatures were real, and they ruled the earth.